Hey there, it's Andrea. I've been turning over this story in my mind for a while now, trying to make sense of it all, and I think the only way to do that is to share it with you. Picture this. I'm 33, living a life that feels like it's been stitched together with care and quiet moments in a small suburban corner of Ohio. My husband Mark and I have carved out our own little haven in a 2-story house that's nothing fancy, but feels like home. There's a tiny front yard where the grass is always a bit patchy, no matter how much we try to keep it neat. Mark's a project manager at a construction firm, often pulling long hours, leaving the house before the sun's fully up, and coming back when the day's already worn thin. But even with his schedule, he's my anchor. 8 years together, 5 of them married, and I still get this warm ache in my chest when I think about him. His steady hands, his quiet laugh, the way he's always got my back no matter what. He's my rock, plain and simple. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer, which sounds more glamorous than it is. Mostly, it's me hunched over my laptop in a cluttered office space upstairs, surrounded by half-empty coffee mugs and stacks of sketch pads. The flexibility is nice, but it also means I spend a lot of time alone, just me and the hum of the house, the distant sound of lawnmowers or kids playing down the street. Our neighborhood is the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, at least enough to wave or stop for a quick chat. 2 houses down, there's Tom, a guy in his late 30s who's always been nothing but kind. He's got a wife and 2 little ones, and he's the type who'll lend you a wrench or help haul something heavy without a second thought. I've lost count of how many times we've leaned over the fence, talking about nothing in particular, weather, yard work, the usual. Our home, though, it's my safe space. The living room has Mark's favorite recliner, this worn-out leather thing that creaks every time he sinks into it after a long day. I tease him about getting a new one, but secretly, I love that it's there. A little piece of him, even when he's not. My office is a mess of cables and color swatches, but it's where I lose myself in work, where I feel like I'm building something, even if it's just a logo or a flyer. Outside, the street is quiet most days, just the occasional car rolling by or the mail truck making its rounds. It's a simple life, a good one, the kind you don't think twice about until something shifts, and suddenly, you're looking at everything through a cracked lens. I can still feel the weight of that one day, the one that changed it all. Mark was at work, as usual, leaving me to handle the day on my own. It was a Tuesday, mid-morning, and the sun was already climbing high, casting a warm glow over the patchy grass in our front yard. I had a list of errands to tackle, grocery shopping to restock the fridge, and a package waiting for me at the post office. I'd thrown on a pair of worn jeans and a light sweater, my hair pulled back into a messy bun that was more practical than pretty. I grabbed my keys from the little bowl by the door, slung my bag over my shoulder, and headed out to my old silver Honda Civic parked in the driveway. That car had seen better days, but it was reliable enough, or so I thought. I slid into the driver's seat, turned the ignition, and nothing. Just a weak sputter, like the engine was coughing out its last breath before it died completely. I frowned, twisting the key again, harder this time, as if sheer willpower could make it start. Still nothing. My frustration bubbled up, a tight knot in my chest, as I muttered under my breath about how I didn't have time for this. I stepped out, slamming the door a little harder than I meant to, and popped the hood. I stood there, staring at the tangle of wires and greasy metal, feeling utterly useless. I wouldn't know a spark plug from a radiator if my life depended on it. I kicked the front tire in annoyance, grumbling to myself about how Mark would have had this figured out in 2 seconds flat if he were here. That's when I heard the crunch of footsteps on the sidewalk. I glanced up, squinting against the sunlight, and saw Tom, my neighbor from a couple houses down, walking toward me with someone I didn't recognize. Tom's familiar grin spread across his face as he raised a hand in a wave. "Hey, Andrea. Need a hand?" he called out, his voice carrying that easy warmth I'd come to rely on over the years. I let out a nervous laugh, brushing a stray strand of hair out of my face. "Yeah, if you've got a magic wand to fix this thing. I'm completely clueless." I gestured helplessly at the open hood, feeling a little foolish for even pretending I knew what I was looking at. Tom chuckled and came closer, his friend trailing behind. "This is Jake," Tom said, nodding toward the lanky guy beside him. Jake looked to be in his early 30s, with a scruffy beard peeking out from under a faded baseball cap. He gave me a quick nod, his hands already stuffed in his pockets like he was sizing up the situation. "Jake knows his way around cars," Tom added, and I felt a flicker of hope. "Thanks, I really appreciate it," I said, stepping back to give them space as they rolled up their sleeves and leaned over the engine. I stood there, arms crossed, watching them poke and prod at things I couldn't begin to understand. Every now and then, Jake would mutter something technical under his breath, and Tom would nod like he understood every word. After a bit of tinkering, they managed to get my old Honda rumbling back to life, and I felt this wave of relief wash over me. I couldn't thank them enough for saving my morning. "You guys are lifesavers," I said, meaning every word. "Why don't you come inside for a quick drink of water or something? It's the least I can do." So here we are, the three of us, stepping into my kitchen, the air still carrying that faint smell of oil and metal from their hands after working on the car. I'm grabbing glasses from the cabinet, filling them with cold water from the pitcher in the fridge, and setting them down on the counter with a little clink. The atmosphere feels easy, almost like we're old friends catching up. We're laughing about how hopeless I am with anything mechanical, and I'm shaking my head at myself, feeling a bit lighter after the stress of the morning. Tom takes a sip of his water and grins, leaning against the counter. "Well, Andrea, you owe us for the roadside assistance. What's the payment gonna be?" His tone is playful, teasing, and Jake chuckles beside him, adding, "Yeah, we don't work for free." I laugh along, but then it hits me. I don't have any cash on hand. My wallet's upstairs somewhere, probably buried in a drawer, and even if I could find it, I'm pretty sure there's nothing more than a crumpled $5 bill inside. My cheeks flush a little, and I stumble over my words, not wanting to come off as ungrateful. Let me check if I've got something," I mumble, turning to rummage through a junk drawer near the sink. I'm pushing aside old receipts, pens, and random odds and ends, hoping to stumble on a stray gift card or anything I can offer as a token of thanks. But there's nothing. My hands come up empty, and I'm starting to feel this tight knot of embarrassment in my chest. Then, in a moment of pure, reckless impulse, I do something I shouldn't have. The words slip out before I can stop them, half joking but with a nervous edge. "Well, I don't have cash, but I've got some of Mark's good whiskey in the cabinet. How about a drink as payment?" I don't even pause to think it through. I know that bottle is special to Mark, a rare, aged whiskey he got as a gift from a client a couple of years back. He's been saving it for something big, a milestone or a celebration, always joking that it's worth more than a week's groceries. But right now, I'm so desperate to show my gratitude that I shove that thought aside. I just want to make this right, to not seem like I'm taking their help for granted. Tom and Jake exchange a quick glance, a flicker of something I can't quite read passing between them, before they both grin and nod. "Now that's a deal," Tom says, his voice warm but with a hint of eagerness that makes me second-guess myself for just a split second. I push the doubt down, turning to the cabinet where the bottle sits on the top shelf, its amber liquid catching the light through the glass. I pull it down, feeling the weight of it in my hands, and grab 3 small glasses from beside the sink. I pour out modest amounts, the sharp, smoky scent filling the air as the liquid glugs into each glass. We raise them in a little toast, and I mutter a quick, "To good neighbors," before taking a sip. The burn hits my throat hard, warming me from the inside out, but I can't shake this tiny prickle of unease as I watch them drink. We settle at the kitchen table, the glasses clinking softly as we set them down, and at first, the conversation flows easily enough. We're chatting about nothing in particular, local news, the weather, how my car's probably on its last legs. But as the minutes tick by, I notice they're drinking faster than I expected. Jake tilts his glass for a refill before I'm still reeling from the sound of shattering glass echoing in my ears, the moment replaying over and over like a broken record. 1 second, I was reaching to set the bottle back on the counter, and the next, it slipped through my fingers, crashing to the kitchen floor in a spray of amber liquid and jagged shards. My heart stopped as I stared at the mess, the sharp, smoky scent of Mark's prized whiskey flooding the room, mixing with my rising panic. I dropped to my knees almost instinctively, my hands trembling as I started picking up the larger pieces of glass, careful not to cut myself but barely registering the danger. My mind was a whirlwind. How could I have been so careless? This wasn't just a bottle. It was something Mark cherished, a symbol of a moment he'd been saving for, and I'd just destroyed it in a clumsy, thoughtless instant. Tom and Jake were right there, their voices overlapping with apologies as they hovered near me. "Andrea, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you," Tom said, his tone heavy with regret, probably thinking his nudge to pass the bottle back had caused my fumble. Jake chimed in, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. "Man, we shouldn't have even taken you up on the offer. Let us help clean this up at least." They both crouched down, reaching for the mess, but I shook my head quickly, forcing a tight smile despite the lump in my throat. "No, really, I've got it. It's fine. I need to handle this myself." My voice came out steadier than I felt, but there was a firmness to it that made them pause. I didn't want their help right now. I couldn't handle the weight of their pity on top of my own guilt. They exchanged a look, sensing the shift in my mood, and Tom nodded slowly. "All right, if you're sure. But we feel terrible about this. We'll check in with you later, okay?" Jake added a quiet, "Yeah, let us know if you need anything," before they both stood, their footsteps hesitant as they made their way to the door. I muttered a quick thanks without looking up, my focus glued to the broken glass in my hands as I heard the door click shut behind them. The silence that followed was suffocating, broken only by the faint clink of glass as I continued to gather the pieces, dropping them into a plastic bag with shaky fingers. I grabbed a towel to soak up the spilled whiskey, but no matter how much I wiped, the smell lingered, sharp and accusing, clinging to the air like a ghost of my mistake. I stood up eventually, tossing the soaked towel into the sink, and leaned against the counter, my hands gripping the edge so hard my knuckles turned white. My mind was spiraling, replaying every second of the last hour. Why had I even suggested the whiskey? Why hadn't I just laughed off their teasing about payment, promised to owe them one, or offered something, anything else? I could have baked them cookies later, or dropped off a 6-pack of soda as a thank you. But no, I had to go for the one thing I knew I shouldn't touch, the one thing that wasn't mine to give. I felt like such an idiot, like I'd betrayed Mark over something so trivial, so avoidable. My chest tightened as I glanced at the empty spot in the cabinet where the bottle used to sit, a glaring void that seemed to mock me. I checked the clock on the wall. Mark wouldn't be home for a few hours yet. But even that small window of time felt like a ticking bomb. My stomach churned at the thought of facing him, of having to explain how I'd shattered something so important to him. I could already picture the disappointment in his eyes, the way his jaw might tighten even if he tried to hide how much it hurt. I paced out of the kitchen and into the living room, my socks scuffing against the hardwood as I tried to think of a way out of this mess. Could I hide it? Pretend nothing happened? The idea flickered through my mind, tempting for a fleeting second, but I knew deep down that lying to Mark would only make things worse. So I forced myself to stop pacing and dragged my feet back to the kitchen, where the faint scent of whiskey still hung in the air like a stubborn shadow. I opened the windows wide, hoping the breeze would carry away the evidence of my mistake, but it didn't help much. The smell clung to everything, a constant reminder of what I'd done. I sat down at the kitchen table, my hands folded tightly in my lap, staring at the empty spot on the counter where the bottle had been just hours ago. My heart felt like it was caught in a vice, squeezing tighter with every passing minute as I waited for Mark to come home. I rehearsed what I'd say over and over in my head, but every version sounded pathetic, like a flimsy excuse for something inexcusable. How do you even begin to apologize for breaking something that can't be replaced? The sound of the front door creaking open snapped me out of my spiraling thoughts. My pulse raced as I heard the familiar shuffle of Mark's boots on the mat, the soft thud of his work bag hitting the floor. "Hey, Andrea, I'm home," he called out, his voice carrying that tired but warm tone that usually made me feel safe. Today, though, it sent a shiver of dread down my spine. I stayed rooted to the chair, unable to move as his footsteps grew closer. He appeared in the doorway, his broad frame filling the space, his face etched with the exhaustion of a long day. But there was a small smile tugging at his lips, the kind that always made my heart skip, until his eyes scanned the room and landed on me. That smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of concern. "Everything okay?" he asked, his brow furrowing as he stepped closer, sensing the tension that hung heavy in the air. I tried to speak, but my throat felt like it was closing up. My hands fidgeted in my lap, fingers twisting together as I forced myself to meet his gaze. "Mark, I need to tell you something," I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he might hear it, each beat a hammer against my ribs. He tilted his head slightly, waiting, his expression still soft but wary now, like he could tell whatever I was about to say wasn't good. I took a shaky breath, the words tumbling out in a messy rush. "The car broke down this morning, right in the driveway. I didn't know what to do. And Tom and Jake, they're from down the street. They saw me struggling and helped get it running again. I was so grateful, I invited them in to thank them, and I offered them some of your whiskey. I know I shouldn't have, I wasn't thinking, and then I dropped it. The bottle shattered. It's gone, Mark, and I'm so sorry." The confession hung between us, heavy and jagged, as tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. I blinked them back, but they spilled over anyway, hot and unstoppable, trailing down my cheeks. I kept apologizing, the words spilling out like a broken dam. I didn't mean to, I swear. I just wanted to show them I appreciated their help, and I was clumsy, and now it's ruined. I'm so sorry, Mark. I'll do anything to make it right. My voice cracked on the last word, and I dropped my gaze to the table, unable to bear looking at him, afraid of what I'd see in his eyes. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. I could hear the faint tick of the clock on the wall, the distant hum of a car passing outside, but Mark didn't say a word. When I finally dared to glance up, his face had changed. The confusion was gone, replaced by something that cut me deeper than I'd expected. Disappointment. Not anger, not rage, just this quiet, heavy disappointment that made my chest ache worse than if he'd shouted. He didn't pace or raise his voice. Instead, he pulled out the chair across from me and sat down slowly, his hands resting on the table, fingers splayed like he was trying to ground himself. His eyes searched mine for a moment, and I could see the weight of my words settling over him like a storm cloud. I braced myself, expecting him to say something sharp, to let out the frustration I knew he must be feeling. But instead, he just sighed, a long, weary sound that seemed to carry years of unspoken things. "Andrea," he started, his voice low and measured, "I'm not gonna lie to you. That hurts. Not just the whiskey, though yeah, that stings. But more than that, it's the fact that you made a call like that without even a second thought about what it meant to me." His words cut deep, each one a reminder of how badly I'd messed up, and I felt my throat tighten again as I nodded, unable to speak. He leaned back in the chair, rubbing a hand over his face, and for a while, we just sat there, the silence stretching out between us like a taut wire. I wanted to reach across the table, to take his hand and somehow make this better, but I didn't know how. Finally, he spoke again, his tone softer but still heavy with emotion. "I need some time to process this. I'm not mad, not really, but I need a minute." He stood up, the chair scraping against the floor, and without another word, he walked out of the kitchen. I heard the back door open and close, and through the window, I saw him step outside into the fading light of the evening, his shoulders hunched as he paced slowly across the patchy grass of our yard. I stayed at the table, my hands still trembling, feeling like the ground had dropped out from under me. The house felt emptier with him out there, and I hated myself for putting that distance between us. Hours passed, though it felt like days, each minute dragging as I sat there, replaying everything in my mind. I didn't move, didn't dare to, as if staying still might somehow undo the damage. The light outside dimmed, the shadows growing long, and eventually, I heard the back door creak open again. My heart jumped as Mark's footsteps approached, slower this time, more deliberate. He came back into the kitchen, his expression softer now, though still carrying that serious edge that told me this wasn't over yet. He pulled out the chair again and sat down across from me, his eyes meeting mine with a kind of quiet intensity that made my breath catch. "Andrea," he said, his voice steadier now. "I've been thinking out there, trying to sort through this, and I want you to know I'm not just hurt about the bottle. It's more about what it represents. That whiskey was a gift, sure, but it was also a reminder of a time when I felt like I'd earned something, like I'd done right by someone. But more than that, it's about trust. I trust you with everything, and I thought you'd know to at least check with me before touching something that personal." His words hit like a wave, washing over me with a mix of shame and understanding. I nodded, swallowing hard, and managed to whisper, "I know. I get it now. And I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking, and I promise I'll be more mindful. I'll talk to you before I make decisions like that again." I hesitated, then added, "I can try to find a replacement, even if it's not the same. I'll look everywhere, call every store if I have to." But Mark shook his head, a small, sad smile tugging at his lips. "It's not about the object anymore. It's gone, and that's that. What matters is us, and making sure we don't let something like this build a wall between us. I love you, Andrea, and I don't want this to be the thing that lingers. But I need you to really understand why it mattered, why it cut so deep." His honesty, the rawness in his voice made my chest ache, but it also gave me a flicker of hope. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story.